Hello, everybody. Rabbi Mordechai Zeller here from Ma'ale Gilboa in Israel and from AJS, Applied Jewish Spirituality, giving over a short pre-Passover, pre-Pesach teaching. So on Passover, we celebrate the fact that our ancestors left Egypt many, many years ago. And the truth is that every year we celebrate this again because time and holidays, it's not about something that happened. It's not historic. It's mythical. And the myth of leaving Egypt reminds us that every year, as nature around us is blossoming, flowers are blooming after a long winter of being enslaved, and our souls too, parts of us that have been cooped up, that have been held back, are suddenly coming out. And it's beautiful, and it's amazing, and there's a sense of freedom in the air. And I want to speak a little bit about one of the foods that we eat around the Seder table that's connected to Passover, and this is the matzah, and a little bit about the intergenerational space of the ceremony where we all gather together around a table and tell the story of Egypt to our children and to each other. So there's a tradition how to make matzah. It's very, very specific. If you ever go to a place where they make matzah, you see them, they're timing it to make sure that the bread, that water doesn't make the bread rise. And if it rises, then it's what we call chametz, which literally means leachmitz, which is to miss out, which the word in here is an interesting one. But to make matzah, which was the bread that the people of Israel ate when they left Egypt, because when they left, God says, you have to leave now. Get out. And they're like, wait, we have to make bread and we have to let it rise. He's like, you can't let it rise. So they just mixed the flour and water, flattened it, put it in the ovens, and they took this cracker hard, our Yemenites and people from Jewish Arab countries, they have matzahs that are a bit softer. But the classic Ashkenazi matzah that we recognize and that my family eats are hard. It's like a cracker. It's not that easy to eat it. And it's not enough just to add water. It's not just any water. So we have special water called mayim shelanu. Now, if you know Hebrew, you'll say shelanu means my matzah, but that's not the shelanu of the matzah. Shelanu is mayim that spent the night. Lan means that slept over. Now, water doesn't sleep, but the idea is that you take water and you leave it overnight. It needs to go through some sort of process. And then you mix that water together, and that's how you make matzah. There's a Hasidic tradition that ties the making of matzahs with another ceremony that we did right around the beginning of the year, Rosh Hashanah, called Tashlich. And Tashlich is a ceremony that people would come on Rosh Hashanah, that we're getting rid of our sins, standing to be judged in front of God, and you stand in front of a body of water, a well or a spring, and you empty your pockets and you say, all the things that are hidden for me, I'm letting go. This is the movement of Tashlich. And there's a Hasidic story about Rebbe Naftali of Rupshitz, who was late when his master, his teacher, the Seer of Lublin, did Tashlich. And he ran down and the Hasidim who were walking with the Seer of Lublin says, you missed it, it's finished. And he goes, you don't understand. I'm not going to do Tashlich. I'm going to collect the rabbi's sins. That is a Hasid. He was going to collect the sins that his Rebbe left. But we're not at Rosh Hashanah now, but I want to speak about Tashlich because there's a Hasidic minhag that where do you draw water from? You draw water from the well that half a year ago on Rosh Hashanah at the beginning of the Jewish New Year, as I'm getting rid of my sins, that's the water I need to make matzah. And this is a beautiful idea because what it says is those parts of ourself that we thought we need to get rid of in order to be pure and to stand in front of God, that's good for Rosh Hashanah. But on Pesach, on Passover, I need to reclaim all the parts that I got rid of because my taste of freedom depends on them. And there's an interesting thing. Mayim shelanu means water that spent the night, but lanu reminds us of a verse that when Jacob runs away from his brother who wants to kill him, it says that as he's running, he stops at a very special place and he has his dream with the ladder, and it says Vayalin sham ki ba shemesh, and he slept there because the sun came down. But the Zohar, the mystical book of the Zohar, the book of splendor, that's traditionally the basic book of Jewish mysticism that was written in the 13th century Spain, but traditionally was passed on from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Zohar says Vayalin Sham doesn't mean that he slept there, but it means Vayalin from the word Tluna, which means complaints. Because the people of Israel, they complained a lot. And when Jacob went to sleep, he had a lot of complaints in his heart. And from his complaints, he had this dream, this ladder that connected heaven and earth. He just needed to connect to that tluna, to this place of hardship. When it says the sun set, it's not that the sun set literally, it's that he was in the dark, he was depressed, he didn't know where he's going, he left his home, he doesn't know where he's going, where he's coming from, he's lost. And that is when things started connecting. And I want to offer something for Pesach. We gather together, our families, and sit around the table, and we have this whole text to say, the Haggadah of Pesach, and we take turns reading it, and it's really long, and some people don't make it till the end. But I want to tell you the most important thing that happens on Pesach isn't the Haggadah. It's the families that fight with each other. Now, what do I mean? Sometimes families get together, and great uncle this, and grandfather that, and the different sides of the family, and I hear it all the time. People say, oh no, but we didn't even read the Haggadah yet. And I say the Haggadah was written, all this text, for people who don't know how to gather around a table and allow their family dynamics to play out. And when they play out, we fight. But in order to bring that pain, that difficulty, all those things that are intergenerational in our family, that's what builds a bridge, that's what adds a ladder, that's what gives moments where we can connect heaven and earth. But we have to sit around the table to allow that to happen, and we do that on Passover. The afflictions, I don't know about God, but we throw a lot on each other. And in these moments of Passover, it said Passover means because God passed over some houses and killed the firstborns in others. But the truth is that Passover is because sometimes we think that we didn't pass something on to our kids. But then the grandchildren come, we say, oh, looks like they got it. Sometimes you have to sit 3 to 4 generations around the table to really see that all the things that we tried getting rid of a long time ago, it's time to reclaim them, to celebrate them, to create ladders that bridge these gaps in our family history. That's what we do on Passover. We have a tradition from father to son, father to son, father to son, all the way back to the story of Egypt. I tell my kids the story that I heard from my father, who heard it from his father, and I still do the things that my father saw his father do. And even though my father is a Baal Tshuva, meaning he didn't grow up religious, the ceremony of Passover is one that they kept. And it's been passing on through our family for generations. And my kids watch me every year as I cry when I eat the horseradish. And I'm sure they'll do it as well. And in those moments that we see all the things that we didn't want to see, that's when something magical, miraculous happens. And if you have time, after all the intergenerational fighting, say the Haggadah, nothing's stopping you. But know that the most important part of the Passover work, the intergenerational work, is to sit around the table and the tlunot, the maim shelanu, let those parts, let our complaints come out, and know that it's Lil Shimurim. God is holding this night. He can contain this, and we can work through it, and maybe leave the bondage of Egypt and find our way into the promised land. Have a beautiful Passover. And if you're with your family, and if you're alone, the truth is that these intergenerational processes, they take place with our parents. And sometimes they take place with our internalized parents after they've passed on, with our children, with our inner child, with so many parts of ourselves. Reb Nachman says that you can be sitting alone in the forest, and all the wars of the world will be taking place inside your heart and inside your psyche. So wherever you are this holiday, may it be sacred. May you allow those tastes of freedom to come out, and may you reclaim all the things that about half a year ago we thought we could get rid of as we taste our taste of freedom. Happy, happy, happy Passover, everybody. Chag Sameach.